Hi Year 5 and welcome back. I hope you've had a fantastic half term. This half term we are learning all about climate change. So I'm just going to share my screen and we will get started. Brilliant. So today we're going to be looking all about what is climate change. I'm sure many of you know a lot about it already. So the first thing we're going to just look at is penguins and polar bears. Just a quick video about climate change, and often in the headlines we hear about penguins and polar bears and ice caps melting, but obviously that's not all there is to climate change. Those are just the ones that we often hear in headlines. Right, I'm going to play the video.
The bears. What's the link between penguins and polar bears? They both swim in the sea. They both get their food from the sea. They both live in very cold places. And they are both affected by what we do in other parts of the world. We burn fossil fuels to power our cars and planes, our homes and our factories. We breed millions of fledgling cows. Phew-wee! We cut down or burn forests. As a result, the Earth's climate is changing. Natural gases in the atmosphere trap the sun's heat like a greenhouse to keep the planet warm. But we are adding more gases, trapping more of the sun's heat, and the planet is warming up. The ice at the poles and on mountains is melting. The sea level is rising, and we have more extreme weather. This is affecting the penguins in the South Pole, the polar bears in the North Pole, and all of us around the planet. But the good news is that we can help. Save energy? Please switch off. Use renewable energy. Reduce, reuse, recycle. Buy long-lasting stuff. Buy seasonal local food. And tell the whole world about it.
So we've heard a little bit about climate change. And I just wanted to start today with looking at the difference between climate change and the weather. All right, so the weather, when we say today's hot or cold or sunny or foggy, this is the day-to-day change in a local area, and that's called the weather. The climate, however, is the long-term weather patterns for a particular region. We've got different regions, which you probably know about already, which is the polar regions, temperate, Mediterranean, desert, and tropical. So the tropical region is right by the equator, and here there's a lot of rainfall, it's very hot, it's very wet, and temperatures stay relatively constant all year round. We've got the desert region, which is the hottest areas in the world, very little rainfall, and large temperature differences between day and night. The Mediterranean, which is mild, wet winters and hot, dry summers. The temperate region, which is where the UK is, which is quite warm summers, quite cool winters with occasional snow. So not very extreme, either in the summers or in the winters. And then finally, there's the polar region, which has got long, dark and very cold winters with temperatures well below freezing and slightly warmer summers, but never particularly hot. So those are some of the climatic regions. And since the 18th century, scientists known as meteorologists have been monitoring and recording the weather. And these records show that the Earth's atmosphere is beginning to get warmer, which is causing our climate to change. And this is known as climate change. So why does it matter that human activity, which is creating these greenhouse gases, is causing the Earth to get warmer, particularly in the last 100 years? So why does that matter? And I'd like you to have a little think about the places around the globe that we were discussing earlier in all the different regions. And I'd like you to think about how weather extremes and climate change will affect the animals and people that live there. Now, often we think of climate change as being in the polar regions or in the desert or in the tropics, but actually climate change is affecting us here in the UK. So you can see on here some of the headlines in newspapers over the past 10 years or so, where we've got more severe weather, we've had more flooding, we've had snowstorms and high winds. And also the fact that the climate's changing in other places is affecting things that we consume, for example, chocolate. So your activity today, I would like you to choose a climatic region. So the polar, temperate, tropical, desert, Mediterranean, whichever region you would like to choose. And I would like you to think about what might happen there to the people, the animals and the environment if climate change continues on the trajectory that it's on at the moment, if it continues to happen, if the world continues to get hotter and the weather continues to get more extreme. And I would like you to create a page of headlines. Just as an example, this is the one that I have done. So I've got my title as my region. So I've got the tropical region. Again, you can choose whichever region of the world you would like. It doesn't need to be somewhere specific. OK, so you don't need to say the UK or India or Australia. You can just say the region that it is. So tropical. So we know that in the tropics, it's hot and it's wet. All right. So if they get more rainfall, this is what I was thinking, if they get more rainfall, what's going to happen? All right, and I've got 3 headlines on my page. You might want to have more. And these are my 3 headlines. So I've got entire village destroyed due to months of flooding. I've got mass migration out of the tropics as 80% of landmass underwater. And finally, I've got last breeding pair of sloths rescued and taken to the zoo. All right, so I was thinking, what will happen if the world gets warmer and warmer and warmer and the weather gets more and more extreme and we have more rain, more floods in this particular area that already gets a lot of water? And I was thinking, what's going to happen to the people, the places and the animals? And I'd like you to think about the same. I'd like you to choose a region of the world and think about how climate change could affect that region. So you can imagine 20 years into the future, 30 years into the future, if we don't do something about climate change, what could happen to these different regions of the world? Right, Year 5. I am looking forward to seeing your headlines. Remember, you can use pictures from the internet. You could do drawings. You could do cuttings from magazines and newspapers. And I will see you next week. Bye.